Hi there, welcome to another Photoshop tutorial with PSDBox. In this video I want to show you how I created this night effect in Photoshop. It's quite simple, just using a few adjustment layers. For this tutorial I used mostly commercial stock images from Deposit Photos, but don't worry, you can download them for free on my website. If you're not a premium member, you can download a smaller resolution. So premium members can download the original sizes of the images, but well, you can work with the small resolutions as well. So well, this is the end result. I'll show you how to create the stars. Well, actually it's a stock image. How to create basically how to make this kind of a night effect. You can start by opening the stock image of the rooftops. You can see that these are all the images that we will use for this tutorial. So I'm going to go ahead and open this image. You can see it's quite big, it's 4000 pixels, but for this tutorial I'll use a smaller canvas size. So I'll type something like 1000 pixels just to make it smaller. And what we need to do here is replace this sky and get rid of the bottom part because we don't need it. And for that I used the pen tool. So I created the layer mask first. Select the pen tool. Make sure you have this option set to path. And all you need to do is just zoom in a bit. If you press the caps lock key, you can switch the mouse, so you can switch to this precision tool and just add a few anchor points here, like so. If you have time, just go ahead and just follow this, but I'm gonna skip it. I'm just going to do something like this. On the original, I included this part as well, but I'm just going to go a bit quicker because this is just up to you. And just trace a path around this. As I said, I'm going a bit quick. Usually I skip this part, but I just want to show you how I do this, because a lot of people ask me how do I extract objects from the background. Sorry. I made tutorials showing how I use the pen tool, how I use the magnetic lasso tool and other tools. Usually I use the pen tool. So just trace a path like that. Just be careful and follow the edges. We don't want this bird here, so we're going to exclude it because we will change the background. If you want to move an anchor point, you can press and hold the control key while you have the pen tool selected, and you can click on it and drag it wherever you want and just continue. If for some reason you add another point somewhere, you can if you do something like this and you want to continue, and you see that you start a new path, what you can do is press and hold the control key and click on the path to reselect it, adjust it, and continue. Okay, and I'll just trace the path around like that. I think I created two paths. I'll see. And when you're ready, right click and select make selection, but in this case it's not active because I'm sure I have two paths here. Let me see. I don't have this option here. I don't know why, but you can choose this option here on the top toolbar and click OK. And nothing happened because I made some mistake here with the path. I don't know where. Oh yeah, you have to select the path first. And once you have the selection, I selected the top part, which is the sky. I have the foreground color set to black. So now I can press Alt or Option and Backspace to fill that selection with black, and that way I hide the sky. So I no longer need this path, so I'm gonna delete it like that, and go back to the layers palette, and I selected the layer mask again because I have this part here which I still have to mask. I'll do that with the brush tool because it's quicker. Just use a hard brush, a small brush like that. Remember to press the caps lock key to change the cursor so you can see what you're doing. If you want to draw straight lines, like you see here on this ladder, you can click there, press and hold the shift key, and click again on the area that you want, and you will draw a straight line. Right now it's not very visible because that sky is really almost white, but anyways. Now we masked that part there. I still have this edge here which I don't like. Okay, so now we cropped this rooftop. One thing that I did is adjust it because it's not straight, at least not to my liking. But first what I'll do is drag it down. Just drag it down like that. And now let's see if we can straighten this a bit. So what you can do in Photoshop CS6 is use this straighten tool. Just draw a line along the object that you want to straighten, and just let go. Well, it's quite. I think it's okay. I don't know why, but I thought it's not straight. And I think I also cropped the image, and I don't want to do that, so I'm gonna undo that because I want to still be able to move it around if I need to. So just move it down a bit. If you don't want to straighten it, it's okay. And let's open the sky image. You can press Ctrl or Command O to open the open window and get this sky image. And now you can press Ctrl or Command A to select everything. Go to Edit, Copy, or Command or Control C. You can close that document and come here, and if you want to create a new layer below this original layer, you can press and hold the Control or Command key and click this new layer icon, and that way you create a layer below the selected layer. Let's name this Sky. Let's name this other one Rooftop, and select the sky layer and press Ctrl or Command V to paste that sky image that we copied, and you can see that it's quite big, so I'll have to drag it here. But one thing that I see is the edge of the rooftop, so I'm gonna select the brush tool and make it bigger and just mask that edge there like so. Now I can adjust the sky. Well, first thing I have to do is make it way smaller, but not too small, and I'll tell you why. I have that image of the couple standing here, and what I want to have is this cloud to be behind them, because that will help me separate them from the background, because this image will become darker since we're creating a night scene, and if you make it too dark, it will be hard for you to distinguish where the couple is standing. So this helps to bring them to separate them from the background. And also because I want to have this dark part here, which is where those stars will be. So I made it just a bit smaller. I might want to change the size of it, but let's add the couple there and we'll see. So open this image, and what I did is again use the pen tool I traced the path around these guys here, and on the hair, just to follow a straight line. Don't worry about the hair, we'll mask it and I'll show you how. And I'm just gonna skip this part of the cropping, and I'll show the cropped image. Okay, so this is the final image, the cropped part. You can see that part of the woman's pants here. I still got that. I don't know what was there, a blanket or something like that. I grabbed that part as well. We'll fix that with the clone tool. And take a look at the hair. You can see that I followed a straight line. I didn't worry too much about the hair. I just left some space here so I can mask it. Let's copy this into our canvas. So again, press Ctrl or Command A, Ctrl or Command C, and Ctrl or Command W to close the document. And go above the rooftop layer, press Ctrl or Command V, and this is our couple standing here. And before I resize it, I want to mask the hair. It's always better to mask things like hair or stuff like that. Well, anything, if you want to mask anything, just mask it before you make it smaller, because you'll have it a lot easier. So I'll select the brush tool, set the foreground color to black. I'll rename this layer to couple and create a layer mask for it. And make sure the opacity and the flow are to 100%. And I'll select this brush because I'm masking the guy's hair, and I want to have some random. I don't want a smooth brush, but I have to change. I want to uncheck transfer and also uncheck color dynamics. And probably uncheck the dual brush as well. And just mask like that. So just mask the hair with one of these default brushes here, because you don't want to have a straight line, a straight edge, especially on the boy's hair. So mask just like I did here, using this layer mask. And one thing we need to do before we scale this is fix this part of the woman's pants right here. And what I did is create a new layer, and I clipped it to the layer below it. You can do that if you right click and select create clipping mask, or a faster way to do that is press and hold the Alt or Option key and put the mouse between the two layers, and you can see that icon changes, and you created a clipping mask layer. And then get the clone stamp and make sure the opacity and the flow of the brush are to 100%, and press the Alt or Option key to sample from a part below above the area that you want to fix. Just paint over it. Just want to blend the edges a bit, like that. Okay, and you can increase the brush size a bit. Then just make sure you have sample all layers, otherwise it will not work. Or you can also use current and below, but I have all layers checked. And you will see that especially this part here is not going to be perfect, but don't worry too much about it, because we will paint a shadow here later on and it will not be very visible. So once I have this layer, which I'll name Fix, what I can do is scale the couple and move it, but if I move it around, you can see that the fixed part stays there. So what I will do instead is select both layers with pressing the Control or Command key, right click and choose Convert to Smart Object, and that way both layers behave as a single layer. Now I can press Control or Command T and then press the Shift key to constrain the proportions and scale them down a bit. I use this as a reference. You don't want to have them bigger than that. It's not looking realistic, so just make them about that big and place them here. Not place them straight on the edge there, is not going to look nice either, so just place them somewhere there. Let's rename this to Couple. If you want to change the fix layer that was merged, just double click the smart object. You'll have this dialog box, click OK, and it will open on a new document and you'll see the layer exactly as it is. So if you want to refine the mask or something like that, just do double click on the smart object, make the changes, and when you close it, it will ask you if you want to save it as a PSB file. Just click yes, and it will, when you come back here, it will update this layer. So once we have that, I want to change the position a bit. The fact that I have this cloud here is not random. I did that on purpose. I might have to move it just a bit, something like that, because I want to have this white cloud. We are going to turn this into a night scene, and this white cloud will help separate these two people from the background, so it's there for a purpose. And let's start making some adjustments, or well, we can add the tree and make all the adjustments later. So let's open this tree image, and I use the magic wand tool because the background is pure white. So uncheck contiguous and click once, select all the white areas and press the layer mask, and it's inverted, so I have to press Ctrl I. If you want to invert the layer mask, just select the layer mask first, press Ctrl or Command I to invert the layer mask, and now I'll right click and choose Apply Layer Mask. I don't want the layer mask separated, so then select the tree, press Ctrl or Command C to copy it, and Ctrl or Command W to close the document, and I'll paste that with Ctrl V or Command V, and I'll move it here, and with Ctrl T I'll load the free transform and make it just a bit smaller. I might want to turn this into a smart object as well, in case I want to make it bigger later. I don't want to lose quality. Oh, something like that. Maybe I'll flip it, see how that looks, make it just a bit bigger, and I'll place it right here, and let's rename these two. So let's start making the first adjustments. We still need to add the cat there and the stars, but we will add the stars later when we turn this into a night scene, because that way we can adjust the brightness of them. The first thing I did is use a color balance on the sky layer, so add a color balance above the sky. There's no need to clip it because there's nothing else below the sky, so you can leave it unclipped. And this is the adjustments that you set here are entirely up to you. You can use whatever you want, but I wanted sort of a greenish look, and on the midtones I left them all to 0, but on the shadows I used -17, -3, and 2, and for the highlights -44, -10, and 4. So I added a bit more cyan. And let's see what preserved luminosity does. I'm not sure if to check or uncheck that. I'll see that later. But this is the change. Once we add more adjustments, you'll see the change, and we can come back here and adjust the settings. Let's darken the scene a bit. So select the couple layer or the top layer on your palette, depending on which one you have, and add a gradient map. Now, I didn't mention this, but you can do this in Photoshop CS3, CS4, CS5. It doesn't really matter because all the adjustments are available on previous versions of Photoshop. And the gradient that I use is black and white, so you can leave this gradient to the default one. And just make sure the shadows, which are on the left side, are black, and the highlights, which are on the right side, are white. So this is the gradient that I'm using. And I set the blend mode of this to multiply, and change the opacity to 50%. And this darkens the whole scene, as you can see. And now we need to make adjustments to the rooftops and the couple and the tree and that cat that we will add. So let's start with the rooftop layer. I usually like to desaturate things a bit, so I use the hue saturation adjustment, and I will clip this to the rooftop layer because I only want to affect the rooftop. So right click on this hue saturation adjustment and create a clipping mask. You can see this arrow points to the rooftop, so that means it will only affect the rooftop layer. And I decrease the saturation to -30. And then I added a gradient map above the hue saturation adjustment. Also clipped to the rooftop layer, so right click again and choose create clipping mask. You can see now both adjustments are only affecting the rooftop layer. And I use the custom color for this. So for the shadows is the code that I will type here. This is for the shadows, and for the highlights so this is the gradient that I'm using. You can see that I'm using a darker tone for the shadows. Click OK, and I changed the blend mode to multiply, and this really darkens the whole rooftop. You can see the before and after, but we still have that highlight there. You can see that it's blue, which is nice. That's because I left the highlights to this kind of blue. That's why the ladder here and this part here is blue. If you leave them white, they will be white, and it's not really realistic. And now let's go to the couple layer, and I added some layer styles to this because I didn't want to use adjustment layers. I just wanted to use styles, but you can do whatever you want. The first style that I use is color overlay, and I used a dark color, so click on this color to open the color picker, and I used the color this really dark gray. Click OK, and the blend mode that I used is soft light, and I left the opacity to 100%. And then I used a gradient overlay because I wanted to have the bottom part of the bodies a bit darker, and set this to multiply, the opacity to 50%, and the scale to 150%, and the angle to 90 degrees. And you can move this up and down. So I think I'll leave it here. and click OK. So these are the two layer styles that I added. You can see the before and after. And we have some problems here. You can see that now they are too saturated because of that soft light blend mode that we used on the color overlay. It saturates the colors, but we will fix that. First I'll create another layer which I will clip to the couple again, so create the clipping mask, and I'll name this Painted Shadows because I'll paint some shadows with the brush tool. So I'll get the brush tool, use a soft brush, and decrease the opacity and the flow to about 20%. Use the black color, just paint some shadows, but I have to adjust my brush because I don't want to have shape dynamics. I'll decrease the brush opacity and flow a bit more. I just want to darken the back of the boy and also on the girl's back a bit because the light is coming from the front there, and dark should be darker, especially this part here. And the reason why I'm using a clipping mask is because that way I can paint around here and nothing happens. That's what a clipping mask does. It restricts the area to the elements that you have on the layer below it. If you're not a good painter, if you don't dare to do this, it's better to don't overdo this painted shadows because you can ruin the image, as you can see I did there. So I'll have to use a low opacity brush to take away the effect, and a smaller brush of course. Then go back to the brush, pressing the B key. I just want to darken this part a bit, and as I said, we will add some shadows, and I'll use this layer to do that. But I'll increase the opacity a bit and the flow. I'll just paint some shadows here, like that. We still have to paint the shadows on the rooftop itself, but we'll do that next. So just darken a bit that. And let's see a before and after. So without the shadows and with the painted shadows. And let's add that shadow I was talking about. You could clip this to the rooftop layer if you want to, and I'll do that because I don't want to paint the shadow on the sky, so that's why I clipped it to the rooftop layer. You can see that arrow there, and I'll use the same brush settings, just paint some shadows, some soft shadows there. Like that. See a before and after. So just darken this part a bit, and I'll darken just a bit more. Too much. I'm painting on the painted shadows layer again. I wanted to darken the girl's pants a bit more. Now let's fix that color problem that we have here. Now I have the couple layer, and I have this painted shadows clipped to the couple layer, and what I want to do now is desaturate them a bit. So I'll create a hue saturation adjustment above the painted shadows, and I'll clip it again, pressing and holding the Alt or Option key and clicking there. You can see the arrow points now to the couple layer, and I used -44 for the saturation to really take most of the color. And that's it. We're done with the couple now. Let's go with the tree now, and we have to darken this a lot. So I'll search for the tree layer, which is this one. And again I used layer styles and add an inner glow. and that's because I want to get rid of those white edges. They're not very visible now, but if I zoom in you'll see them. And change the blend mode to multiply and use a dark color. Let's try a dark green, and let me show you the before and after. Actually, let's use another color, this dark gray, and leave the opacity to 75%, and then let's add a color overlay. And I used another custom color here. I use this kind of blue because the night has this, also the skies have this blue tint across the image, so I used a similar color. And I changed the blend mode to vivid light and decreased the opacity, but right now it's not really going to do much because we need to darken this whole tree. So what I will do is add a hue saturation adjustment, and I'll clip it to the tree, and I'll decrease the lightness to -70%. So you can see it's almost dark. Well, right now it's just a silhouette there, but I'll go back to the settings and let's see. I have to adjust the opacity of this color overlay. I just want to leave visible some of the color on the tree, and click OK. And if you want, you can add some lights there, and you can do that with the inner shadow style. Leave the angle to 30 degrees, change the color to, let's see, something like this, and change the blend mode to color dodge, and increase the distance a bit. I'll uncheck global light and change the angle a bit. It's not going to do too much, so I'll deactivate it. That's how I adjusted the tree. It's almost a silhouette, but we still see some of the color and some of the texture on the tree. And now let's add those stars. And I used a stock image that I found. It's really good. You can also use the noise filter if you want to, but I had this on the stock folder, so I used it. Select it all, copy it, and paste it above the sky and the adjustment layer. So you can see where I had that sky there, and I paste it above the color balance. And I'll name this stars. And let's see, might probably make them a bit smaller, not too much though, because I want them to be visible. And place that there, and change the blend mode to screen, and that way we get rid of the black background and we only see those white dots, which are our stars. And I'll probably have to apply some sharpening to it, but we still need to work on this. Create a layer mask for it, so select the stars layer, click this icon to create a layer mask, and with the layer mask selected, go to the tools panel and choose the gradient tool. Make sure you have the linear type selected, and also that you have the black and white. And what you need to do once you have everything ready, just click somewhere here and drag down, and that way you fade away the stars. And if you get something like this, just click the reverse option and do it again, and something like that. And that way we mask part of the stars on the bottom. And you can see that we have a lot of small dots here which are not visible. We need fewer stars and more visible, so what you can do is select the stars layer, not the layer mask, the stars, and press Ctrl or Command L to open the levels. We'll go to Image Adjustments, Levels from the menu here, And what you need to do is, I'll first have to zoom in at 100% because I want to make sure I see all the stars. And what I'll do is increase the shadows a bit and do something like that. With the highlight slider, which is the one on the right, you make the highlights brighter if you drag it to the left. And if you want to get rid of the smaller, less visible points, move these two other sliders until you find a balance. See, if it's to 0, we see all those dots there, and if you drag it to the right, to the right, you get rid of them. And with this one, you can further control the effect. So until you have the amount of stars that you like, and click OK. And if you want, you can redraw this gradient if you want to have stars only on the top. And that's how I got all these stars here. And I think it looks pretty nice. One other thing that I did is create another layer above it, and I named it Stars Glow, and got the brush tool, and let's use about 50 or 40% opacity and flow, and switch to white. We'll see if this is too strong, and just select random stars and paint a glow like that, a glow of light around them. You can also use star brushes. I use a pack that I really like. It's called Sparkles or something like that. Let me see if I can load that pack. Replace brushes. And I'll search for it. I think I have it on the desktop. Here it is. It's this one. I'll give you the link so you can download it. So let's see which one I can use. The problem is that this is a dynamic brush, so you'll have to open the brushes window and uncheck scattering and also uncheck shape dynamics, because we want to paint single stars. But I'll have to increase the brush and the flow first, and I'll paint on this same layer. I'll just select again some random stars and do something like that. I'll zoom in a bit more. One there. Let's paint another one here. And it's good to change the brush just to have some variation, because you don't want to have the same star over and over again repeated. Oh, that's too big. Just 4 or 5. You don't have to add too many because it's not going to look realistic. So just paint a few sparklies or whatever these things are. I don't know how this brush pack is called, starlets or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, let's paint another one there. And these are our stars. Now let's paint a few more glows using that soft brush. I'll reset my brushes and I'll decrease the opacity and the flow back to about 40%. And just add some glows. Okay. And now let's make those shooting stars that I made on the original. So what I'll do is create another layer. I'll name this layer Shooting Stars, and I'll get the brush tool, increase hardness to 100%, and you can use about I don't know, 2 pixels for the diameter. Let's see how that looks. Make sure the opacity and the flow is to 100% first. It's a bit too thick, I think, but we will use a dual brush, so maybe that will change. Open the brushes window. You can do that if you press F5, or if you go to window and press select brush. and go to dual brush. Here you can leave this to default, just activate dual brush, and you will see that now we have like a sort of interrupted brush, that way we can create that trail there. If you see that there's too much gap between the points here, just play with the spacing here actually. And let's undo that, and let's make our first shooting star. I'll start from here to here, and it's actually too much space between those points. I don't like them, so I'll decrease the spacing even more, and I'll try again. And so what I'll do is, in order to create a straight line, what you can do is click once there, and then go to the point where you want that trail to end. Press and hold the shift key and click again, and that way you can create a straight line. And it's too visible. Let's change the blend one to soft light or overlay. I don't like it. I don't like how it looks. I'll use a darker color, maybe a tinted color like this, because it was too bright. But again, this is up to you, depending on what you like. And if you want to fade it out, you can use a big soft eraser and just erase the end like that, and you have a fading trail there. That's how I added the shooting star. I still don't like that trail. Probably you should use a normal brush. Just don't activate the dual brush, because I don't really like how it looks there. But well, that's the technique that I use. I just showed it to you. You can do whatever you want, or if you have another technique, you can use it. Let's add the cat there now. So I'll open the stock image of the cat, and I'll use the quick selection tool. We don't need precise selections here. Just increase the brush size a bit. Make a rough selection of the cat. If you want to exclude this area, press and hold the Alt or Option key and just exclude that from the selection. And once you have it, go to Refine Edge, and I'll shift the edges just a bit, feather the selection, increase the contrast, and smoothen the selection because I need some smoother edges. Anyways, the cat will be almost silhouette, so just enhance a bit the selection that we have here. I'll choose layer mask, click OK, and right click and apply layer mask. I should have chosen there a new layer, but anyway, select the entire canvas, edit, copy, and let's go back to my canvas here, and I'll paste this. This is our night gradient map. Let's name it, so we know what it is, because I need to paste this cat below it. You can see it's really big, so press Ctrl or Command T to load the free transform. Press and hold the Shift key and make it smaller. So with the Shift key you can constrain the proportions, so you don't do things like this. And as soon as I press the Shift key, it constrains the proportions. You can see that there. And if you're not sure about the cat's size, you can again convert this into a smart object before you rescale it, and that way you can come back and rescale it back up without losing quality. I think a size about this big is enough. I can compare it to the boy's arm there, something like that. I'll place the cat there, place it there, and you can paint some shadows. Let's rename the layer first. I'll paint some shadows on the roof. using the brush tool, decrease the opacity and the flow as well, and use the black color. Just paint some soft shadows. If you want to make sure that you don't paint on the sky layer, and just locate the rooftop and press and hold the Control or Command key and click on the rooftop layer mask, or if you applied the layer mask, do that on the layer itself, and that way I loaded the selection of the roof layer. And I'll zoom in and go back with the selection still active, go back to the cat shadow layer and paint with black. And just to show you that I'm only painting on the rooftop, I'll have to change my brush back to normal. You can see that I'm only painting there because I'm restricting the area with this selection. Reduce the opacity and the flow and go back to my business, which was making the cat's shadow. So I'll paint some soft shadows under the cat, just like that. And maybe on the cat itself, some painted shadows. This is just the details that you need to take care of just if you want to, but what I don't like about this is that I can see this this highlight on the edges, and that's why I will use this painted shadows to get rid of it. Let me show you the before and after. It just makes sense to me. If you think it's not necessary, don't do it. That's what I did. There we have a cat. Let's make the final adjustments here. I also use the dodge and burn, but it's not too many things to dodge and burn here. You can do that if you want to. Go here on the couple, dodge a bit, maybe the bodies and some of those folds there, maybe the roof a bit, and maybe the ladder and this part here. But I didn't really dodge and burn too much on this image. One thing that I'll add, a final adjustment, is a photo filter. So go to the adjustments icon, select the topmost layer and add a photo filter above all the other layers. And I use the custom color, which is this cyan here, and set the density to 58%. Check preserve luminosity and leave the blend mode to normal, and that you can see we have this blue cast here. And now let's create the final light effect. Usually what I do is create a stamp. So I have all these layers here, I merge them all on a new layer, and you can do that using a keyboard shortcut, which is Shift, Control, Alt and E, or on Mac it's Command, Option and Shift and E. I think I said that correct. Command, Option, Shift and E, and you get this stamp. Or you can go to Filter, I think to Layer, sorry. Well, you don't have that menu here, so it's just a keyboard shortcut. So just press Control, Shift, Alt and E and you create this stamp. Let's name this Final, and I'll convert this into a smart object just because I will apply some filters now and I want to be able to edit them later on. And I'll go to Filter, Render, Lighting Effects. This is a technique that I used over and over again on my tutorials. So once you're inside the lighting effects filter, the objective here is to add a bit of light and concentrate the light here where the couple is standing, and just have a bit of a vignetting on the corners. And for that I'm using a spotlight. By the way, if you don't see these lines in Photoshop CS6, you have to press Ctrl and H, and that way they you can make them disappear, and if you don't see them, just press Ctrl H or Command H if you're on Mac. And what I did is just have a spotlight here. I can place it, well, I'll leave it here actually, and from here you can control the lighting properties, how bright you want it to be. Don't make it too dark, it's not looking nice, but don't make it too bright either. Just watch that cloud there. You want to still have some details there, so you don't want to have something really blown out like that. Something like that. Make it a bit darker than you want, because we will add another light. And I'll place this one here because I still want to have some light on this part here. These are the settings that I have. I like how it looks. If you want more contrast, you can use this metallic slider. If you drag it to the left, you will decrease the contrast, and I like it here. I'll leave it about here, and with the hotspot you control how much the light fall off, so to say, because here's the center. So if you drag it to the left, you'll only have just a small amount of light there, and it, from here on it starts to add more shadow. So let's leave it about this big. Let's add another light, and the second light that I added is a point light. So the point light cannot be, you don't have any direction, just a circle of light, so to say. And again, you have the same controls, but we'll need to decrease the intensity a bit. And I just wanted to add this right here over the couple itself. And if I turn that off, you can see the difference. Just add a bit more of light here. That's why I said I wanted to have that one, the intensity, to lower the intensity just a bit, because I knew I would add this one, and if I increase the intensity just a bit here, that cloud will start to be too bright. So I'll leave it here. Maybe increase the exposure and drop the intensity. Increase the gloss. So just to add a bit more of light, let's increase the intensity to 4 and decrease the exposure. By the way, you can choose the colorize option if you want to add a blue cast to this light. You can do that. And if you want the light to be blue, you have to do that here on color, but I don't want to mess with that. I want to leave it white. It's barely visible because the intensity is really low, but I will leave it to white and just check the colorize, and maybe add a bit of colorize there on the exposure slider. If you're using previous versions of Photoshop, you'll have this a bit different. You'll have a small window, but the controls are almost the same, and some of the names are different, but I think I have other tutorials explaining the settings. It's not really difficult, just try to get the light focused here, and that's it. So now I'll click OK. Now let's see the before and after. Wait for the filter to apply. Okay, let's see the difference. I'll deactivate the final layer, so you can see that it's a quite big difference. Before and after, we have all this light concentrated here, and we have this nice vignetting effect, maybe even too strong, but we have the light on a couple. I would try to shift it even more to the right. I'll reopen the lighting effects filter. That's why I'm working with smart objects on this kind of final layers, and I'll just drag this spotlight here and maybe increase the hotspot just a bit, like so. And let's click OK and see the difference. Okay, I like it better now. We have less vignetting effect here. It's a bit still too strong here. I would have to make the spotlight a bit bigger, but anyways, I think you got the idea. So well, that's the end of this tutorial. I hope you liked it. Sorry for the sound quality. I hope I can get a Blue Yeti soon, because this mic is good, but I have some problems with it, with the background noise, and with the Blue Yeti I have some controls over the sound volume. So I'll try to get one soon. But in the meantime, thanks for watching and see you next time.